Let's do it. I am Derrick Oldensmith, and I'm an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position disclosure here. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so really interesting day today for the market. Let me make myself bigger from the picture thing. Really interesting day today for the market. S&P is down 0.4%. Here we go. SPYs. Qs are flat on the day. IWM was relatively weak. So IWM was down 0.8% on the day. So look, I mean, the S&P still looks fine. You know, we pulled back to the ADMA on the daily. It's still part of more or less 6 days of consolidation. If you look at the 5-minute chart here, a little bit sloppy, you know, weak early on. I think the most interesting part about the S&P today was that it was weaker in the beginning of the day than both the IWM and the NASDAQ. Usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually if you've got relative strength in the IWM or the NASDAQ, SPYs kind of hold up okay. And right in the beginning of the day, actually the IWM was trying to be relatively strong. Qs were a little bit weaker. That flipped pretty hard around 10:30 or so. IWM broke back below 228, right as the Qs at that time of the day caught a little bit of a bid and a grind higher. But overall, net, relatively tight, sloppy price action for the market. You know, weaker day here, but just to pull back to the ADMA, still holding up with, you know, 6 days of consolidation. NASDAQ is still healthy, but has still not broken this high from a couple trading sessions ago, even though Apple did. We'll talk about Apple in a second. And the IWM, a little bit weaker today, but even with that pullback, is not even quite all the way to the ADMA on the daily chart, and definitely still is above our key 225 level. Interesting that the IWM was relatively weak today. This is only, I think, the 3rd trading session since August 20th that the IWM was relatively weak compared to the NASDAQ. And that's fine. You know, that's part of what a bull market is that constant money rotation. You know, the NASDAQ to the Russell to the NASDAQ, energy to big tech, back over to financials. That's part of a bull market. It's part of what we've seen all year. And again, I've been saying this to death. Relative strength and relative weakness has been just a huge part of understanding markets as a whole recently. So I guess that is the indices. I do want to talk about some individual stocks today. So, you know, we had a bunch of ideas here in the morning meeting. We had some good technical setups and some major brands, major stocks. We're still also looking for short squeeze candidates. What made today so interesting was that the indices didn't really do too much, but there were some really big winners and really big losers, and it almost didn't even seem like there was rhyme or reason to it. You know, some of these speculative stocks, they really performed. Some of them got absolutely destroyed. You know, case in point, right? You can look at, like, you know, SoFi that had a really strong day today. The Sumo that I'm in had a really strong day today, got back above 22. And those names are both kind of, you know, a little bit more speculative. But then you can look at, like, DocuSign today. DocuSign's daily candle is just a disgusting, engulfing, bearish candle. I didn't see any news on it. Or Coursera, which is also kind of a speculative name. I know $40 is resistance in Coursera. I kept calling for a pullback off of $40 in Coursera. This was not a pullback. This thing went down $4 off that resistance level today. It's down 9.6%, so did not quite get circuit broken by, you know, less than half of a percentage point at that point. But that candle, bearish, engulfing candle, just absolutely disgusting. Then you've got, like, you know, AMC, which is up 8% today, and this daily chart is still looking really strong. It's also one of those, you know, short squeeze Wall Street bets names. And at the same time, as you look at that, you got Bed Bath & Beyond that was down 6.5% today, retesting the 25 support level and totally broke down. And then GameStop more or less somewhere in the middle, also a little bit weak. Definitely could not catch a bid. GameStop, I believe, has earnings tomorrow. So kind of a crazy day. You're definitely a little bit of a stock pickers market. Some big winners out there, some big losers out there. Almost didn't seem like there's too much rhyme or reason to it, to be honest. And it is a holiday week, Labor Day, 4-day week, and at the same time we've got Rosh Hashanah going on for anyone who's Jewish. Happy New Year to you on the holiday. So we know that this week we expect it to be slow. And we got that, right? We got pretty slow price action. We've had pretty slow price action like we've expected for the indices for a week plus now. But just interesting to see that there were some really big winners and some really big losers out there today. And it wasn't like, this group of stocks necessarily was really strong and this group of stocks was really weak. It was just like, this name has decided to be up a lot today, and this handful of names decided to be down a lot today. And it just kind of is what it is. We actually had some really good call-outs in the morning meeting today. DKNG was a fantastic call-out on this bull pennant, ascending bull pennant that developed, followed by an inside day. Great continuation there. Apple we spoke about through 155. I spoke about this candle in the morning meeting today. This is a short-term bearish candle. It usually indicates a price correction. Instead, what you got was a time correction, 2 days here. 2 inside days in a row, time correction. And when you time correct, instead of price correcting, and then you break that high like it did today, a lot of times that leads to some deep follow through to the upside, because the candle from 2 trading sessions ago that had a little bit of a topping tail, what does that mean? Short sellers came in, long sellers sold stock. Well, those short sellers who might have been looking for a pullback or retest of 150, I mentioned that retest of 150 where he broke out from could definitely be reasonable. They didn't get that at all. And now today those shorts are getting squeezed. Those longs are re-entering the market. So Apple through 155 today. The execution on it was a little bit tricky. I know it traded through it immediately off the open, and then the real move came on the third bar of the day, third 5-minute bar of the day, when it actually cleared higher, followed by this tight little shooter continuation above resistance. That's definitely one that we like. So we spoke about DKNG, we spoke about Apple, we spoke about Tesla. I had 5 ideas this morning. I had DKNG, Apple, Tesla, HUYA, and NIO. And 3 of them worked really well. This NIO, I said I probably was not going to, not NIO, Tesla, I said I probably was not going to be involved in Tesla. I don't really like trading this name too actively, but this was another great follow through. Execution on this might have been tricky, but good looking little doji, little bottoming tail on Friday into the ADMA, followed by clearing of the 740 level. And I've been saying for a while that this Tesla technically looks really strong. Look, I don't believe in Tesla at these prices as a company. I know Kathy obviously does, but the technicals are just so bullish right now in it. Same thing with AMC. I don't believe in AMC as a company, but I've been preaching, even as I've been short small, I've been preaching to everyone else that you want to be looking at this to the long side, because the technicals in this thing are just looking so bullish right now. So all those worked out really well. I also had 2 Chinese names on the list that did not work out as well. This HUYA, I did not trade HUYA. We talked about 1150 in HUYA. Pretty sure Felipe still managed to crush this initial opening move. It pulled back deeper than it should have. It never broke the opening low though, so kind of no harm, no foul if you stick with it. And then the one that I took was probably the worst one. Out of all the ideas today, the one that I was heaviest in was probably the worst one of the ideas. I was thinking NIO. Chinese names are catching a bid. They were showing relative strength pre-market. I like this company a lot. And on top of that, I'm expecting follow-through in Tesla, but I prefer NIO as a trading vehicle. So a lot of times, NIO being a Chinese company, it'll trade with the Chinese stocks. Being an electric car company, they'll sometimes trade with Tesla. And I had really good strength for the most part in a lot of these Chinese companies. BABA held up pretty well today. JD had fantastic follow-through. Obviously, Tesla we already covered. So you would think that NIO would give me some money on the follow-through, and it did not. I was in this early on this break of $41. Where I mentioned I was looking to get heavier. I started buying a little bit pre-market, and then I was in this early, and it gave the upside continuation through $41. Fantastic continuation up to almost 42. I had some really nice open P&L up here. I was being pretty greedy from a game planning perspective. Okay, fine, pulls back a little bit. Okay, fine, a 15-minute correction at 10:30, not the end of the world. Once this candle came in, it started to not look as good, let alone once it broke this opening low. Just garbage, and leaving a not so good looking candle here on the daily chart. So again, definitely interesting on the winners and losers. And we're still seeing some of these speculative names run. You know, we saw option flow all day on the CLOV. I know some of you guys here on the team are involved in CLOV, so congratulations for the folks who are involved in this. The option flow was fantastic. I commented to someone at one point today when this thing had more option flow here and was ripping and was actually going parabolic. You know, I was looking at, you know, you look at it when the option flow is coming out at like it's at like $10.40. You're like, how can I buy this thing when it's at $10.40 when it was at $9 this morning, and the next thing you know, it rips up an additional $1 from there. So CLOV, really nice. So we're still seeing speculative forces at work coming in on some of these stocks and giving them the big short squeezes and the big rips. Interesting to see that some SPACs woke up today in a pretty big way. I think we saw this SRZN, I'm pretty sure it was a SPAC, out of nowhere. Look at it, it's still closed below 10. I've been challenging people who are listening, and I haven't really seen it, and I thought maybe this was the first one. I've been challenging people to find me a SPAC that was at $10 for a long time because it's a SPAC, became the company, but traded for a significant period of time below 10, like this one did. A significant period of time below 10, and then was able to recapture and hold above. So I typed this up at one point, like, oh my gosh, look, we finally found a SPAC that is ripping back above $10 after being below it. Interesting to see it couldn't actually keep that. I'm expecting that these SPACs that have had significant declines below 10, should they ever recapture 10, are going to run into so much overhead resistance up there, because that's where every person who still has stock from the deal, it's their price. We know that. And all those folks who are 30% of the money here at $7 are like counting their blessings when they're able to sell at break even, and it's just going to create a ton of resistance. So interesting to see that this one ripped but then came back down, but definitely still had a really solid move. Also, this SOAC here was another SPAC that really woke up today, closed off highs, but reached a high of about 1320. I think there was another one, Fuse, was it, that we saw come in? No, not. Oh, Fuse we saw option flow come into, but it didn't really get a pop. I think that there was one other one that had a really big pop today. Oh, this IPOF. Okay, so this I don't count, by the way. When I'm mentioning to you guys, I'm looking for one that traded below 10 for a significant period of time. What I really should probably say is like below 950 for a significant period of time. A lot of the SPACs, their real cash value after fees is closer to like somewhere between like 960 and 990. So a lot of them are trading like a little bit below 10. I'm more meaning one like the OA. What did I just say that symbol was? SRZN that actually spent real time like below like 950, where people were really out of the money after the deal got announced and then came back up. You can see a lot of these things, even this one, they hover below 10. This one was in this 985 area for a really long time before the actual breakdown occurred on the news. GSA. Yeah, GSA's still trying to get back above 10, but this one also doesn't. This one didn't spend any real time below 10. 985. I'm not going to count that. OPAD. Yeah. Okay. So here's another one. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going to add this to my list of SPACs that I'm paying attention to right now. So this is interesting. This is the first one I'm seeing here that was really able to recapture 10. Look at this. 4 big down days below it. This thing had really broken down and then was able to actually rip back above 10. I don't know what the news was that actually hit on this. But again, the real reason I'm going through these 3 SPACs right now is just to talk about the speculative nature of this market right now, that we can still find these short squeezes and these speculative spots where we're seeing relatively big upside kind of come in. NAMCAP here in the VTF bringing us a link to the SPAC merger list. I'm going to take a look at this link after the meeting. Appreciate the send. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. Wanted to go over some of those ideas that worked out pretty well in the morning meeting and some that didn't work out as well. Wanted to just talk about the speculative nature of this market with where we're at. We talked about the indices. Again, holiday trading session right now, so I really don't have anything else to talk about. I'm happy to take a look at any names you guys want to look at, any questions that you guys have. So give me a second here so I can scroll up in the virtual trading floor. What's Coop doing on its earnings here after hours? Up. Interesting. And DM is moving after hours as well, you're selling? Okay, a little bit. This NDM we can pay attention to tomorrow, this 660 area. I know it's a level we've spoken about in the past. Great job, Sahil. Sahil saying that he was able to make some money in HUYA and NIO today. They definitely gave the opening moves. So then it all becomes about game plan and greed of game plan. So even NIO, where I was being really greedy, you can't let yourself lose any money in a trade that gives an opening momentum move like this. You're buying $41 and your stop loss is at $40.84 on that bigger buy, and you get a dollar move off 15 cents worth of risk. If you end up negative in this name, it just means that you game planned and or executed the trade really poorly. So even on these ones like a NIO that actually failed today, or a HUYA that I wouldn't say HUYA failed, it just was a little bit of a disappointment. If you've got good game planning, good execution, which is what I'm constantly harping on here, then that makes all the difference. You buy a stock, the stock just goes up and works perfectly. Anybody can make money on that. It's not that difficult. I find that the real thing that separates very good traders from traders who maybe are not necessarily as good or as profitable, it's not about how their trades are when they just perfectly work or just immediately fail, even though obviously that has an effect on it. A lot of times it's about what about all that meat in the middle? All those trades that you took that were decent, that worked to some degree, and then failed. How did you execute? How did you manage the positions? That really makes the big difference on big picture overall success. Robert here talking about Apple. Yeah, I mentioned the execution on Apple might have been a little bit difficult. I've gotten shaken out of Apple in the first candle, but then when I was reviewing the chart, excuse me, if the third candle had even bigger volume than the first. Yeah, so that was definitely a clue in this Apple. So first of all, if you bought Apple through 155 on this first little tail here, and you got pushed out on the first bar or whatever for a little bit of a loss, I don't think that's a bad job. I think it's a good job. The second candle here is really giving you great ignition bar confirmation with the big volume that came in, right? It's always impressive when you're able to see the third bar of the day have even bigger volume than the first. With that said, my skepticism on the Apple trade came from the NASDAQ, right? Because the NASDAQ was not really trading really well in the beginning of the day, and all indications in the first half hour of the day were that the IWM was once again going to have relative strength. And it makes sense that you would think that the IWM would have relative strength because it has had relative strength almost every single day recently. So if you're looking at taking Apple through 155, well, the market itself is one of our big layers of probability. Relative strength and relative weakness is one of our big layers of probability. So if you're looking at the Apple position here, you can be like, all right, well, on the one hand, Apple is relatively strong compared to the other tech stocks. On the other hand, tech stocks are relatively weak to the market so far today and have been relatively weak so far to the market for most of the last half of a month or so. So do I really feel the confidence on Apple through 155 based on that relative strength, relative weakness layer of probability? Kind of, again, the strong name for tech, but tech is the seemingly weak sector. Definitely a little bit trickier there. The market itself, I think, is, I keep saying every day you want to err to the side of the longs, but we know the market's also been a little bit tricky. But the things to like about Apple is, one, the volume confirmation on the actual break on the second bar, and two, what I was saying earlier about the daily chart. This high of this tail here is 154.98. You really start clearing that 154.98, 155, then you have all of the big picture stuff that I was talking about. So you got what we would call time frame continuity on your side. So I got time frame continuity on my side. I've got the market sort of on my side, but hard to really have conviction with. And I've got relative strength and relative weakness being a little bit mixed. I struggle to call that an A+ trade. I know Brandon in the VTF had mentioned, that he was viewing this as an A trade. And Brandon's a great trader, so we always want to pay attention to what he has to say. I know he was also looking at Tesla today, so Brandon, I hope you were able to capture those. So I definitely can understand some hesitation on Apple, and again, the first opening little trade there was pretty difficult. What about BBIG, Felipe? This was not a SPAC, right? No. Okay, that's the one. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Felipe. Tian Hao. Do you think the TLT will go bullish and the casino names like MGM and Penn will have a second day? Let's take a look at TLT. So I don't really trade TLT as much as I watch it as an indicator for the market. I see no reason why the TLT should spike. I don't really see a reason for it to break down either. If I had to choose a direction, I probably would choose lower before higher. But it's hard to have any clear indication here. I think that the highest probability thing for the TLT, I said this back in July when it was topping out here, actually, when TLT got above 150 and came back in. What I think I said was I think the highest probability for the TLT is actually going to be sideways action for some time. And that's what we've seen. It's been sloppy, and it's actually had a pretty wide range. But overall, it's really been sideways price action for the TLT for working towards 2 months now. I don't really have a reason to think that that's going to change, though I probably would lean more towards the downside of TLT and higher interest rates than the opposite side. What's going on with Woof right now? Does anyone see anything there? I see Woof just had a nice little uptick. Okay, so that's TLT. Happy to take a look at MGM and Penn for you as well. So MGM has had great relative strength compared to the other casinos. And I think that may have something to do with its China exposure. If you look at MGM versus like LVS or Wynn, LVS and Wynn got really beat up. We did a pretty good job kind of coming in near lows and looking at this stock. Originally, we were looking at it in the beginning of August, which was just a little bit too early. But now it's kind of confirmed a reversal in that small time frame. But MGM has just had the relative strength. And now this is creating a bullish consolidation here for the stock, and it closed at the upper end of it. So I think MGM looks great and can definitely give continuation. DKNG we spoke about already looks great. Penn, Penn. I look at Penn in the same breath as DKNG, though I know that Penn also has, I think, a physical presence of casinos. But Penn looks great. Penn looks great. It closed right at the upper band of this bullish consolidation. So we've been speaking about this name a lot. $80 is support, 84-ish is resistance of the bullish consolidation. It closed above 84. It closed kind of right in that zone. Penn looks great. I don't necessarily know if it's going to get followed through tomorrow. I don't like buying day twos. If this thing gaps up to 86 tomorrow, I'm not coming in and buying it. I'd be interested in a potential buy versus 84 if it looks right, but it's a little bit extended. Cool. Since the answer to that. Noah here. When using your trailing stop rules, I watched the training video already. When do you transition from a shorter time frame to daily time frame? So I usually will transition a trail to a daily chart if it's a swing trade. For me, if I'm keeping the position overnight, I'm almost always committing to trailing on a bigger picture, on a daily chart as an example. That's really what I'm looking at. If it's an intraday trade or it's still the first day in which I executed, then my favorite time frame on that intraday to really trail on is the 15. Because I find it gives you enough. If you're trailing on a 5-minute chart, it's very rare to see a perfect 5-minute trend that lasts all day and never violates on a 5-minute chart. If you're trailing on a 5-minute chart intraday on something that you bought early on in the day, you are almost always going to get stopped out at some point. If you're trailing on a little bit of a bigger picture, like a 15-minute chart, that a lot of times will give you the room to be able to keep that, to be able to potentially get the continuation that you're looking for, and then potentially swing it. And then if I do swing it, that's when I go back to using my original stop loss usually, and then trailing it on a bigger picture chart, like a daily chart. So that's the answer to that question. Yeah, Coop ripping on earnings. Oh, BBIG is the new Mead call. Interesting. So, yeah, another one to pay attention to in short squeeze land. I mean, we already have been paying attention to it. I think skills looks solid. It started to go again today. We could pay attention to that tomorrow also. Lee here, you said that you see TLT in a range. Do you also see a wedge here? Yeah, it's making a little bit of a wedge here so far. Needs more time. The downside of it's a little bit sloppy. The upside of the wedge is pretty clear. It's a tightening pattern, right? I mean, that's a lot of times consolidations are tightening patterns. And now I'm looking at the chart that you posted. The chart that you posted also, you can see it. You can see it very clearly on kind of the descending highs, but the ascending lows I think are a little bit sloppier. Sure, YouTuber is asking about, kind of look at MMAT. Yeah, so I'm in this MMAT still. MMAT, you know, I've spoken about this. I got involved 2 trading sessions ago. We saw some option flow come in. On any of these types of stocks that I think are potential short squeeze candidates, you know, typically what I'm doing is I'm covering a large percentage of my position pretty quickly because I don't necessarily believe in any of them, right? I really don't believe in any of these companies. I don't believe in AMC. I don't believe in GameStop. I don't believe in BlackBerry. I don't believe in, I don't know, a whole ton of them. I don't even know what this BBIG does. That BTCM that I was trading last week, also, I definitely don't believe in that. MMAT, I can't even tell you what this company does. What is that? That's Metamaterials. What's a metamaterial? I have no idea. But any of these things that I think are potential short squeeze candidates, like I'm saying, I am covering as much of my risk as I can on that first move, and I'm keeping a smaller percentage of my position just to see if this becomes the next stock that really gives like the SPRT type of short squeeze, where I'm looking at this thing and next thing I know it's up huge. You know, I did not do that with BTBT. I bought BTBT on July 26th, pre-market, below the low of the day on this day. My price was $4.75, I think. I sold the whole position that day by like $8.50, I think, maybe even $8. Thought I was a genius. Caught this huge move. And then a week later, it's at 21. So what I'm doing with all these types of things that we could really see major squeezes on right now, and I'm really trying to do, is sell a lot of my position, really try to get my risk covered, and then just be greedy as all hell. And then you got to be a little bit careful because you could still run into an ANY type of situation, right? This ANY, which I traded on September 1st, I didn't keep it because it didn't close well. Look at this tail. And then the next day, it opened up at, you know, 690 or so and ripped to 12. Ripped to 12 that day, and I remember looking at, oh my god, it's a 12. I had all this stock that I sold out of into the close yesterday, blah, 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 blah. And then the next morning they announced a secondary. So that's the big danger right now, is when these companies, if you're trying to be involved in some of these fast-moving squeeze types of stocks and you get in them early because we're seeing the option flow. Look, I'm not trying to be late on stuff either. Like, I'm not coming in and trying to be too late on stocks, but if we're seeing the option flow continue to come in, we're seeing the volume there, we know it has a high short interest, that could be that next stock that gives that, you know, really fast 500% move or whatever. But it also could be the one that as soon as it starts going up a little bit, the CEO of the company goes, hey, we need to raise money. It's a great time to do it because of our new stock price. Let's announce a secondary, and that in turn crushes the stock, right? That's what happened with AMC on the second day. Had the insane run up, right, from, you know, $35 to $73 or so that day. The next morning was trading at $77, and CEO announces secondary. Boom, dead. Right? ANY announces secondary. Immediately, boom, dead, all the way down. $12 yesterday, $6.50 today. So that's why you gotta be a little bit careful with some of these stocks. We're not trying to marry them, we're just trading them. You could marry a Microsoft, you could marry an Apple, you could marry those real companies that just continue to pay and pay and pay. Some of these other ones are giving huge moves, but we don't want to marry them. The same way that we didn't marry them and we knew that they were bubbles back in January, February, when Palantir was at 45 and, Jumai was at 70 and Tilray was at 55 and, one after the next. Triple D at 56, and then these things pulled back, 50 to 80%, depending upon the stock that you're looking at. We don't want to necessarily marry them, but they can be fantastic trading vehicles when they come together. So MMAT, to directly answer your question, yes, Friday's candle was gross, but it was extended. Not a good-looking doji on high volume, so this high needs to be cleared. I just got my stop loss in. Didn't stop me out today. I'm still in. I don't think it looks bad. I don't think it looks good. It needs to clear this high. So that is MMAT. No problem, Noah. Kyle saying he loves my afternoon meeting. I appreciate the compliment there, Kyle. Happy to, Apple's just such an important stock that you almost have to review it on a day-to-day basis. From Fabio, in your experience, what is a good risk-reward and batting average for day trading? Okay, so it's a difficult question to answer. I would say that most, not all, but almost all of the best traders that I know, and I'm pretty sure I'm in this category, are actually professional losers. They're wrong more often than they're right, but their risk-reward makes up for it. And then as far as the risk-reward that you're looking for, I actually think that the risk-reward you're looking for is highly dependent upon the trade type that you're taking. So for example, the hammer capitulation buy setup that I spoke about one day last week, I don't remember which, I think it was when I bought Roblox. On the small time frame off of $80 on August 30th. We did a whole little afternoon meeting lesson that day on hammer capitulation buy setup. It's almost hard to see, but that was this day here. That was this day here. This trade has a much worse risk reward, but it's got a pretty good probability of giving the retracement. So if you understand all the rules of the trade, it's got a better probability. Actually, if everything is lined up, the extension that you're looking for with the capitulation, ideally it's trending higher on the bigger picture chart, and you have the volume maximizing at the point of capitulation when the hammer comes in. If you have all of the factors that are there, this trade has a pretty good probability of success on giving you the bounce back to at least the ADMA on that time frame. And then it could potentially become more. So I still have Roblox now from that buy that I had at about $80.50 or so. So that's a trade there that has a worser, I would say, risk reward, honestly, though it became a reversal, but a higher probability of success on getting the initial target that we're looking for. I actually don't prefer these counter trend type of trades unless there's something on the big picture or something on a fundamental basis that I really like, which the big picture here on Roblox isn't great. It's been in this consolidation, but I like the qualitative fundamentals behind the company. So that can give me a little bit more conviction on it. The trades that I prefer are more of these Apple type of trades. And honestly, look, I think that day trading, to also answer your question, I think that day trading is great. I started my career as a pure day trader. I don't think I even kept a position overnight my first couple of years at T3, 2 or 3 years doing this. Was 100% a pure day trader, never kept anything overnight. Now I view pure day trading as reward limiting. I think that if you have Apple at 155 and it closes at 157, to keep 15, 20, 25% of your position versus your original stop loss when you're in a win-win situation is how you put yourself in the best possible risk-reward scenarios, because what is your reward potential on a swing trade in Apple right now? It's unlimited. So I tell people, and I know it sounds kind of far-fetched, but it's really not. The risk-reward on a with-trend long trade, the ideal risk-reward that I'm really looking for on my trades is unlimited. I want unlimited reward for my risk. And you have that in this type of setup. You don't have that in the counter-trend type of trades. So that's the best answer I got for you there, Fabio. It definitely depends a little bit on your approach and the types of trades that you're taking. Pablo saying that the volume on the mic is really low. Stefan is saying the same thing. Sorry about that, guys. I have to speak to my tech team. I'll try to bring this a little bit closer. They got me a new microphone. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually kind of crazy looking. But maybe I'll try to bring this a little bit closer to me, and hopefully that'll help. And otherwise, I can speak to my tech team tomorrow to try to get them to make it a little bit louder, because I am terrible at technology. What do I think of Corsair CRSR? I was actually looking at this Corsair pre-market, and I wanted to bring it up in the morning meeting today, and then I forgot to write it down. I think I forgot to bring it up. I think this Corsair looks pretty good. I was looking at it pre-market for a potential trade in it above yesterday's high, and I think it had some sort of news. I don't exactly remember what it was. So I was thinking about Corsair above Friday's high for a trade. I'm not loving how this closed. I would have liked a little bit of a better close in it today, and it needs to clear 30. 30 is a really big level on a closing basis that it needs to get above. I thought that today, as a buy above Friday's high, was a great kind of cheating start point, because the setup in the stock. It's kind of reversed on a small time frame. 88's crossed back above the 80. The 8 EMA is crossed back above the 21 EMA at this point. The stock is overall looking a lot better. Needs to clear 30. I thought today could have been a decent starting point, but I'm not crazy about the actual close. Next here is my buddy Buzz. How you doing? Mara. Yeah, so these crypto names got crushed today, as did crypto. Bitcoin took a big hit. You shorted Mara at 43.20 from pre-market. You traded around a core position. I always like that. I always like when people are trading around core positions. Down to 39 and did well. I got all out at 39 to follow my plan, but now think that I could have swung some. Has some potential as a swing to the short side. What would you have done? So I find these trades to be difficult, is the first thing I would say to you. So what you're doing here is you're taking a counter trend trade, but you're definitely doing it with a good technical signal. So the shooting star candle from Friday, what does this indicate? This is literally the opposite of what I just went over in the hammer capitulation, is the upside shooting star trade. So this type of candle, when there's confirming volume, there's not confirming volume, but this type of candle, when you have extension and confirming volume, typically gives you at least a 50% probability of a pullback to the ADMA. Okay? Now, it not having the volume doesn't mean that it can't do that. It definitely can. It just means you have a little bit of a lower probability of success. And obviously today it didn't. So you've got the technical setup here on the daily chart. You found your smaller setup, I'm sure, for the execution. You had relative weakness kind of in the crypto sector, if we can even call it that. That was also on your side. So you got a lot of things on your side here. What's against you is obviously the market. It's still a bull market. I don't care what anybody says. We might be able to find stocks in a bear market, but you can't look at the S&P and tell me that we're not in a bull market. So that's against you. I think if you had a game plan to get out on a pullback to the equilibrium area, and we know that this $38 was a previous level that's broken out from that could act as support, and then you got out into the pullback, I think you did a great job. You got to keep in mind, this is a counter trend trade off of this shooting star. So really all you can really expect, I think if you wanted to be aggressive, you could have looked for a move to 36. 36 is also a level, and it's a little bit below the 21 EMA, our lower band of equilibrium. So you'd be looking for it to kind of overshoot that band a little bit, and then it would just become really tough. I think you did a great job by booking your profit in this thing. We don't want to play the what-if game. like the what if game is a really dangerous game to play for your trading psychology. The what if game is, it's kind of like what I did in BTBT. I wasn't actually doing it. I'm not upset that I didn't have the move for 20. I'm just, when I'm analyzing what I did with BTBT, how I got out at $8 and I thought I had this great trade, but then I saw what it did. All I'm utilizing this information for is to tell me about the market environment. I was never upset. I might have made jokes about it, but I was never upset that I had stock at $4.75 and I had 0 by the time it was above 8. Not upset about that at all. But again, it's a representative of what the market itself is kind of doing in this current environment. So, and you don't want to play the what if game, because when you start playing the what if, well, what if I didn't sell all my BTBT and I kept every share I had all the way to $20 and then I magically sold it at $20, I would be a bajillionaire. You're going to mess your psychology up so bad. Next thing you know, you're not even going to have trading rules anymore. So you just develop your trading rules, you develop your game plan, you want to follow through with them consistently, and then you look at the data, which is what I'm doing here, and you say to yourself, well, maybe I need to make adjustments for similar game plans going forward. And now when I'm in an MMAT or something like this, and I recognize maybe this could be that next short squeeze candidate where it is at $20, low probability, not outside the realm of possibility, let me keep a little bit of it. Let me keep a smaller percentage and see if I can actually get the move. So Buzz, great job, my man. I love to see it. From Sahil, I often keep missing out in the earlier move risers as all my alerts trigger at the same time. I can't enter at a good point in all of them as my order placing speed is bad. Should I switch to using LOO? What's LOO? Limit open order? Instead of monitoring a stock when it hits my alert. First of all, make sure that your alerts are coming in enough space ahead to give you the time to execute, right? Like, you know, trying to think of, I kept having my path alert go off today. Wow, why is path getting crushed after hours? I kept having my path alert go off. $65 has been a spot that I've wanted to pay attention to in path as a potential buy. And guess what? It went off on the first bar of the day because my alert was at $64.75. I gave myself 25 cents worth of room so I could type it up. And then it pulled back, so I put my alert back out. And then the second bar of the day, it went off again. And then it pulled back, so I took my alert off. And then, did it go off here? Yeah. And then it went off again here, this high is 76 cents, so it went off again. And it pulled back, so I put my alert back out. And then it went off again here. And then pulled back, so my alert went out. So first of all, make sure that you're giving yourself enough space on your trading alerts. How much space is appropriate depends on the stock. For a cheap stock, 10 cents might be enough. For an expensive stock, you might need 50 cents, 75 cents in front of your level for your alert. That's one. Two is, you will never catch every stock. They're not Pokemon, you can't catch them all, right? That's what I like to say. They're not Pokemon. You can't catch them all. You have 10 names on your game plan and everything's triggering off the open. You'll be lucky if you catch 4 of them for the most part. And honestly, you might not even want to be in all 10. That's probably not going to be a good thing for you from a risk management perspective. And we've spoken about it in the past. When I was a new trader, I never allowed myself to be in more than 3 positions at once when I was a new trader. I couldn't handle it. Once I was in 4 or 5 positions, 6 positions, I started making mistakes all over the place. And it would have, a detrimental effect on me. Not to mention being able to afford the risk of that many positions all at once. Now, a decade plus later in my trading career, I can handle 25, 30 positions at a time without really too much of a problem. So it's something that you're going to get better with over time. You definitely want to learn to become faster with your hotkeys. And if you're not using hotkeys, oh my God, you gotta use hotkeys in trading. You gotta have hotkeys for your trading, and you gotta learn them like the back of your head. When I was a new trader, the trading mentors that I had, if you want to call them that, one decent piece of advice that they gave was to take a keyboard with me on my subway ride home. And there's all kinds of weirdos in the subway. No one will look at you twice. Take a keyboard with you. Sit down on the subway. close your eyes, imagine that you're trading, and with your fingers, just press the hotkeys as fast as you can over and over and over and over and over again using your mind's eye. It'll get you faster on the keys. I never actually did that, but it'll help. And at this point, I'm so fast on my hotkeys, I can put out, you know, multiple orders per second. So yeah, you just gotta work at it, and that would be some hopefully helpful pieces of advice. NIO announces an at-the-market offering of ADRs. Is that hurting NIO here after hours? Wow, I'm so glad I sold that NIO position in the close. I'd be crying like a baby here. I traded that NIO pretty actively all day today. I sold my remaining position in the close because of how poorly it closed. I wonder, you know, this makes sense to me now. I was a little frustrated with this NIO trade because, like I said, NIO tends to have correlation to Tesla. It tends to have correlation to Chinese stocks. Chinese stocks did great today. Tesla did great today. And NIO gave this gross topping tail. Think anybody knew that news was going to come out? Or am I just being a conspiracy theorist? SOAC. Yeah. Yeah. This SOAC is definitely one here. You know, quick dip below. I mean, it never really got below 950. There's just a couple of days of action here. It almost seems like today was the first real day for it. Yeti mic, yeah. Kind of check NVAX. Someone asked me about Moderna earlier and I missed it. If someone asked me about Moderna earlier and I missed it, I feel like I saw that and I forgot about it. Just copy and paste the question or just send it to me again and I'll answer it. This NVAX looks great. I actually had this on my radar today too. I just don't like trading it because of its expense, so I didn't get involved. NVAX had a great breakout today through this 260. Great breakout, great follow through. Volume could have been a little bit better. I think that today through 260 on this NVAX was fantastic. I mean, you got there's almost nothing to the left. You just have this one little pocket of price action from February, and I'm not going to put a ton of weight on this price action here. And NVAX looks fantastic. Limit on open. Yeah, I've never used. I don't use like MOCs or limit on open orders, and I don't recommend using an MOC either. MOCs don't trade well. From C here, what are some standard scanner settings for movement and volume? I don't use a ton of scanners. C. The number one thing that I use is the ProDesk virtual trading floor. We get a between the entire team. You know, things that are moving or getting into the VTF very quickly. We get the news in there and the option flow in there very quickly. So honestly, the number one scanner that I use is the ProDesk virtual trading floor. I've used other things in the past. I mean, the number one thing I'm looking at is volume. So one thing that I've looked at in the past was I had a scanner that I don't have on my current layout. I should probably build it back up. But I had a scanner that showed me the percent of volume that the stock traded compared to yesterday. It was just like a little watch list, basically. So anything that was doing like 100% plus of the previous day's volume by 10 a.m. would be something that I would want to be paying attention to because obviously something's going on. So I use that. There's a risers and fallers that I'll look at a little bit also, which shows you your like top 10 stocks and bottom 10 stocks on a percentage basis on the day. So look at that pre-market and a little bit during the day. But that's it. ProDesk VTF is where it's at. That's what I'm looking at. So if you're interested in ProDesk virtual trading floor, reach out to info@t3live.com. Looks like we basically covered it. Looks like we basically covered all the questions. Guys, we got a Twitter up. If you aren't following the Twitter, it's @ProDeskVTF. It's relatively new, so we're trying to get our following going on here. You know, we're posting the videos and stuff like that in here. Pat's been doing a great job building out some of these charts for you guys to kind of review on some of the better trades that we do. Pat's been putting that together for us. So definitely check out the ProDesk virtual trading floor @ProDeskVTF on Twitter. We just started a YouTube specifically for me. I don't really know exactly all the details on how it's gonna work. So we got some support here. It is it's Derrick the Trader, I think is what they're calling it on YouTube. So you know, trying to get a following going on some of this stuff here, Derrick the Trader. So if you want to give that a subscribe, definitely appreciate that. Also, we're getting some videos up on that. If you're interested in becoming part of the ProDesk virtual trading floor, reach out to info@t3live.com. If you're interested in being a professional trader with T3, reach out to info@t3tradinggroup.com. All right, everybody, have a great night. I'll see you all tomorrow.